How are you working to ensure that there is money in the pockets of Kenyans?
Thank you. When President Ruto took over leadership of this country in 2022, the 5 or 6 macroeconomic indicators were not looking good. And I need to clarify now that I have this opportunity. Many people think when we project that time frame so that to show the distance we have covered, we are casting aspersions at the previous administration. That is not true. Kenya got to where it was in 2022 because of factors mainly beyond the control of President Uhuru Kenyatta, because the country's economy was shut down for nearly 2 years by COVID-19. No economic activity. And then, of course, the war in Ukraine, which affected the global supply chain of wheat and other oil and foodstuffs, and many other factors. So when we refer to 2022, it is not political. It's just a fact. And in any case, that's the only way we can explain what we have done. Now, straight to your issue. The macroeconomic indicators were bad. The dollar was rising on a daily basis, 160. At one point, it approached 170. The price of fuel, the same. At one point, it approached 217 per liter for petrol, super. Then inflation was 9.6%. And then if you take the 6 basic food items, starting with unga, the main ones, again, the prices were much higher than they are today. Today, essential commodities, 2 years later, are down significantly. Just to give unga as an example, from 240, 250, 230, depending on the brand, to now something between 95 and 120, depending on the brand, maybe 120 something. Number two, the foreign exchange stability has been realized for more than a year now, from the high of 160 plus to now 127, 129 for some time. The same applies to the price of fuel, which is decreasing every day, every month, including last month when it went down by 4 shillings. Inflation again from 9.6 to 2.8%, the lowest in 17 months. Now, in 17 years. Now, that has not happened by magic or by chance. It has happened because of policy interventions, subsidizing production as opposed to consumption, the fertilizer subsidy, and so many other interventions in various sectors that has managed the macroeconomic situation. It has taken 2 years. But flashback to 2002 when President Kibaki took over, when we had similar situations at the exit of President Moi. It took President Kibaki 6 years to bring back macroeconomic stability. President Ruto has taken 2 years, by the grace of God. So the 2 years look a bit long, but in the context of what has happened in the past, I think this is a very good trial. What remains now is what you're asking me. The macroeconomic stability, for it to be felt by citizens, must be followed by microeconomic stability, which is improving household incomes, creating jobs, and so many other things that we are doing in the space of SMEs, in the space of the various sectors, including manufacturing and tourism. So, to answer your question, the macroeconomic transformation and the microeconomic transformation cannot be taken simultaneously. One must precede the other. Going forward, therefore, the remaining 3 years is the interventions. We're going to have interventions that will respond to the issues you say. Already those interventions have been operationalized. They are on course, creating jobs through the 3 major prongs, creating jobs at home, creating jobs online, creating jobs even overseas, And then also other interventions that will enable disposable incomes in the pockets of individual citizens.
But
Going
how would
forward,
that really
it can only
be achieved when the whole problem begins with our budgeting? For instance, despite the challenges faced in the fiscal year 2024-2025, your projections in the next fiscal year for 2025-2026, you're looking at having a budget of 4.25 trillion Kenya shillings, with the revenue, ordinary revenue, actually crossing the 3 trillion mark. That basically will translate either to more debt, because already we will record a 759 billion fiscal deficit, but at the same time, we are forced to actually impose now the taxation on Kenyans, because last year we only got 2.1 trillion in terms of ordinary revenue. So why this shift over ambition on ordinary revenue collections?
Again, in 2022, the fiscal deficit was more than 8.2% or thereabout. And that means the gap between revenue and expenditure. It was at 8.2%. This administration in 2 successive budgets has reduced it. Currently is at 4.3.
On paper, because of revenue shortfalls. That shifts towards the end of the fiscal year.
Yes.
And you are forced to bring a supplementary budget.
We are forced, but in all fairness, where the fiscal deficit is now is not where it was in 2022. And in fact, I am confident the Treasury will bring it further down this year. But more fundamentally, it is not in our priority of things to generate more revenue through perhaps more taxation, to answer you directly. What we are doing is that we are reviewing tax policy, because that's where you can still get more revenue, not by imposing new taxes or higher taxes, but by adjusting certain tax policy instruments that gives you more revenue. You heard the Minister for Finance and the National Treasury the other day explaining how the Treasury is entertaining a possibility. Of course, it has to go through public participation of even relooking at VAT, what the VAT should be like, maybe try to bring it down, and other taxes, as one of the 5 pillars this administration is putting in place to ensure that tax is a bit more accommodating, more people are bearing the burden of tax without necessarily compromising revenue. Number 2, Kenya's debt right now is in a better place than it was in 2022.
11.3 trillion is better?
It is better in the sense that, debt is calculated in 2 ways. First, as an absolute figure, which is what you're citing, but also as a percentage to GDP. And in other words, many countries...
At what percentage is it? Already at distress, 68%.
You call it distress, it's not. If it was, the IMF would have said so, and I'm sure the IMF has not said so.
Yeah, Your Excellency.
They just warned us that we need to make sure that it doesn't enter into the red zone.
But 55% plus or minus 5 is what is allowed by our law.
The point is, it's not even about percentage also alone. Many countries, including developed countries, are highly indebted. The US, for example, the US debt is about almost 120% of GDP. Japan is 250% of GDP, 248, 250. So and many other countries. Singapore's debt also is in the hundreds. However, what we need to do, let's agree that what remains ahead is that our revenue generation measures must not lead to higher taxes. It's not a must. Number two is that the area of debt, we need to be careful so that Kenya does not enter into the unsustainability zone, and we are managing that.
DP, naomba kidogo, wakati ambapo tunazungumzia masuala ya uchumi, kuna wengi ambao wanahisi kwamba mnasema maneno mengi, maneno makubwa makubwa, lakini la msingi ni kwamba biashara nyingi ziko katika mazingira magumu. Wengi wamefunga biashara zao, wengi wamelalamika kwamba hawawezi kuendeleza biashara zao kutokana na zile sheria ambazo zilizoko na zile sera ambazo zinatolewa na serikali. Labda unaweza kuwaeleza wale wanaokutazama leo hii ambao wameshindwa kuendelea na biashara zao, ni mikakati gani kama serikali mnaweka ili kuhakikisha kwamba hizi biashara zinaweza kuinuka na wanaweza kupata pesa mfukoni?
Asante sana. Ni kweli biashara nyingi zinapitia changamoto nyingi, na ni kweli wananchi wakiwemo wanabiashara wamelalamika na pia wametoa mapendekezo ya sheria ama sera ambazo wangetaka tuziangalie upya. Najua ya kwamba hivi sasa Wizara ya Uwekezaji na masuala ya industry ama viwanda inaongea na KEPSA. KEPSA ni ile Private Sector Alliance ama kikundi cha wanabiashara katika sekta ya binafsi. Wanajadiliana kuhusu mambo mawili, na jana wamekuja hapa kunipatia mahali wamefika katika majadiliano. Ni leseni gani ambazo tunapaswa kuziangalia upya, na vile masuala ya ile levies ambazo zinatolewa na mashirika mbalimbali. Kwa hivyo swala hili la ugumu wa wanabiashara wetu ni swala ambalo tunaliangazia, tunajadiliana na wale ambao ni washikadau, na serikali iko tayari kutoa mwelekeo ama sera mpya za kuzingatia uboreshaji wa biashara. Ile jambo ambalo limesema,
manake watu wanakwenda Krismasi hawana hela mfukoni, watakula nini sikukuu?
Unajua hayo majadiliano sio ya Krismasi, ni ya kurekebisha.
Na Januari kutakuwa na hela za karo zinazohitajika.
Pia hiyo mjadala sio wa maneno ya karo, ni wa kurekebisha idara zetu na ili biashara zetu zipanuke. Nataka niwahakikishie kwamba nimesema jana waziri wa viwanda na uwekezaji pamoja na wakilishi wa shirika hilo ambalo ni la wanabiashara wameniambia wako katika mjadala, na Januari nimeambia hao waniletee ile ripoti yao ili tuipitishe ama tuijadilie katika baraza la mawaziri. Kwa hivyo mwakani tutakuwa na mfumo mpya, sera mpya, sheria mpya za kuboresha biashara.
Lakini pia kuna wale ambao wanasema, nikimalizia, kuna wale ambao wanahisi kwamba hizi biashara kuna mazingira magumu kwa sababu wale ambao wanapata mshahara, kwa mfano, zile pesa ambazo wao hutumia kwenda kwa hoteli, kwa mfano, kwenda kununua chakula, zimepungua kutokana na yale makato ya mishahara. Kwa hivyo wengi wanashikilia zile hela kidogo walizobakishwa nazo, ndio maana hizi biashara hazisongi mbele. Unasemaje kuhusiana na hili?
Unajua, nimesema ya kwamba Wizara ya Hazina ya Kitaifa imesema ya kwamba iko na mambo manne ambayo inataka kushughulikia ili kujaribu kusawazisha maneno ya kiuchumi na kuhakikisha wananchi wamepata nafuu ya kiuchumi katika household, yani katika individual level, sababu tumekuwa tukikabiliana na mambo ya kijumla. Sasa tunakabiliana na mambo ya kibinafsi, na kati ya hayo majadiliano kutakuwa na sera mpya za mambo ya ushuru na mambo ya kibiashara. Lakini la muhimu zaidi ni kwamba katika hayo majadiliano ni lazima tujue ya kwamba ile ushuru ambao unakatwa. Kwa mfano katika mambo ya bima ya afya, unaweza kuwa unapunguza kidogo mshahara wako kama mtu ambaye ameajiriwa kazi, lakini ile bima ambayo ni ya kila mwananchi itapunguza zile arambe za kimatibabu. Kwa hivyo wewe labda pesa yako imepungua kidogo, lakini hizi arambe 5 ama 10 ulikuwa unaitwa kwa sababu uko na mtu kwa familia yako na shida ya figo, shida ya moyo. Hizo arambe zikipungua, there is a net off. Kuna vile hiyo mkato imekunufaisha hata kwa njia zaidi kuliko vile ilikuwa, because
swala la naibu rais, lakini unapozungumzia masuala yote licha ufanisi huu wote, we've seen the President Dr. Ruto say we are proud that our sister country of Tanzania is now leading in our business engagements. The success of Tanzania is the success of East Africa. Businesses have been closing shop and going to neighboring countries. So you're speaking of this, and KEPSA has talked about it, that the government seems not to be listening to those who run businesses, that they're escaping to other countries.
I've just told you we are having a conversation with KEPSA. Why don't you call them after this interview?
We did speak a few weeks ago with
should have told you that they are engaging.
And he did say that, whereas that engagement is happening, it is not...
They have identified 2 areas. Yeah. One is the regulatory. They said there is multiple regulation, or what they are calling over-regulation. The second issue on the table is on taxation. We are a bit careful because the issue of taxation, we would rather have it in the broader tax policy and other fiscal issues that are being discussed and spearheaded by the National Treasury than just to take just that business community and handle their taxation issues without the context of looking at tax as a general issue.
I really need to ask a question on the tax regime, because today there has been an announcement that there is a task force that has been formed to get to the bottom of why businesses are closing down in the Republic of Kenya and relocating to other countries. Your Excellency, doesn't that sound absurd? Why do you need a task force to establish why businesses are closing when all you can blame is the taxation regime?
You need to, because this is something that has happened for the last 20 years. It has not happened this year. Just look at which organizations have left Kenya when? The last 25 years. And that's why the contribution of our manufacturing sector to GDP has dropped from as high as 12% many years ago to 7.5%.
On the pending bills.
So it's an accumulated problem, and I think there are no quick fixes. The best way to do it is to just analyze all the factors and bring recommendations that will last us another 40, 30 years.
The financial inadequacies being experienced in the country perhaps are as a result of the pending bills. More than 650 billion for the national government, 150 billion for county governments. But you're not budgeting for it. Do you promise Kenyans that as soon as the pending bills verification committee concludes its work, you're going to settle the pending bills?
We will implement the recommendations of the pending bills verification committee.
Thank you.
DP, tumebakisha dakika kidogo kabla ya kufunga, lakini hii leo kumekuwa na mabadiliko katika baraza la mawaziri, na kuna wengi ambao wanahisi kwamba the appointments that have been made seem like a harvest just 10 days after President William Ruto met retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, and all those appointed to the cabinet and board chairs seem to be from Mount Kenya. What is this about?
You know, the cabinet, appointments, dismissal, reassignments, if you look at it too, is the prerogative of one person, the president. So I'm sure the changes that the president has made have been made in exercise of that prerogative and to advance our country's national life in the weeks and months to come. I cannot directly associate themselves with the political developments, but also I have no reason to disassociate themselves from any political development, because the president has made it clear that for the country to pull and rally itself to do the heavy lifting, there is need for a broader political consensus. It started with the inclusion of the partnership with some of the ministers who were appointed, who were allies of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. The ministers and the parastatal chairs who have been elected, who have been appointed today, many of them worked under President Uhuru Kenyatta. That is in the spirit of broadening political consensus so that we can focus not on political competition and the quest for political survival, but on pulling the heavy agenda that we need to pull to transform Kenya and carry everybody.
But there are those who
many Kenyans feel duped or betrayed by the Kenya Kwanza administration, because during the 2022 election campaign, the hustler narrative was the cornerstone of the Kenya Kwanza administration, a breakaway from traditional political dynasties to more ordinary Kenyans, right? But the appointments being made recently by President William Ruto are people or individuals from established political families. It looks like the Kenya Kwanza government is running away from the hustler narrative back to the dynasties to save the day. Why is that?
As any of the ministers and parastatal chairs who have been appointed today coming from established political families.
Yeah, they do come largely from the Mount Kenya region, especially.
Sorry again? Sorry again?
They do come, many from the Mount Kenya region, many who've been in government before, and you remember the call, especially during the Gen Z protests, was to drain the swamp, to have something new in the Kenya Kwanza administration.
I don't know what you call something new, because even the ones who have come are new. They were not there, they are new.
Allow me to rephrase her question, because this is what Kenyans feel, that the political class has regrouped and forgotten about what Kenyans want. What would you tell them tonight?
I don't think so. First and foremost, as I said, this is not time for politics. Let's start from there. That time is coming. And we will all do politics and do it so well. Right now, it's time to do the very, very delicate and important work of pushing the country's development agenda. So the issue of, I don't know, who has betrayed who has regrouped with who, for me, the timing is wrong. Okay. And for Kenyans who are expressing their democratic views about some of these developments, they have their time when it is election time to express themselves on what they think about those in leadership.
Your Excellency, to matters now development projects, and we've seen the issue that Kenyans are actually expressing is that this government is forcefully imposing government projects, programs. For instance, vaccination of animals, SHA, that is the Social Health Authority, affordable housing, and I'll begin by that before we get to the specific programs. What do you make of, or what do you think about this? Because Kenyans say it is too soon. It is being buttressed on them. You're forcing it down their throats.
That is not true. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, because has anybody been arrested for not doing anything? What the government is doing is it is doing its obligations to the public. The government's obligation to the public is to work for the national interest. The national interest in this matter includes, for example, universal health coverage, making sure as many Kenyans as possible have medical cover, because many homes have been rendered poor. Even people who had something, they have sold everything to pay for medical bills, especially when it is chronic and critical illnesses. Okay. Many poor people live by chance. They take herbs, they go for, some look for witch doctors, they cannot access medical care. So we are saying, what government is saying is that it is in our interest as a country that every Kenya has an insurance, a medical insurance. It is not taking people to court for not having a medical insurance. Those are two different things.
Okay, fine.
The same with vaccination. What the government is saying about vaccination is that we have certain targets as a country to grow the livestock and that value chain around livestock and livestock products. For us to reach those targets, we need to access European market, the Middle East market, and even the regional market under the African Free Trade Area, and then also under economic EPAS, the partnership between Kenya and the European Union, which we signed last year. In many of these markets, our products are being denied access, and one of the requirements is sanitary and phytosanitary standards. That is to say, health-related standards. One of the requirements for us, for example, to meet our export demand is that your herd must be vaccinated. And what we are rolling out is a vaccination program which has always been there for 40 years, but because there has been no campaign, high-level government campaign, we've been vaccinating about 10% of livestock. So many of our livestock are rejected when we take them out either as live animals or beef because of the vaccination question. So it is purely a disease control issue. The vaccine is developed by Kevevapi in Kabete by Kenyan scientists. It has always been used. It is only that we are doing a campaign to make sure, other than vaccinating only 10% of livestock, we can have 80, 90, 100% vaccination for purposes of getting market access, exporting livestock and livestock products even to other countries.
DP, it's good that you, before you go to affordable housing, Ashley, because we're still on the vaccination issue, you may be explaining a very good thing for the country, but are you aware that citizens are agitated by the language of their leaders? Is there a more decent way to explain your programs and not seem like you're forcing it down their throats? And I'll give examples. Adani Consolation, the president said it is people who have never been to the airports that are complaining. When it comes to the vaccination, majority leader yesterday, I think, said ni watu hawana ng'ombe, hawana kuku. How do you think that makes citizens feel when they are trying to express themselves, yet they are met with arrogance?
And to add on to that, the Kenya Veterinary Association perhaps has, among the recommendations they've given, they've said improve public awareness, enhance stakeholder engagement. When will Kenyans feel they are participatory in this government, in these projects that affect them?
First of all, we agree that we need to create awareness and also just carry citizens along in our government programs. And also, generally, as government, we need to continue communicating to the people in a manner that is consistent with our obligations under the Constitution. But having said that, I am sure, again, because we were here an hour or so ago, I'm sure you are not inviting me to comment on statements by the president or another leader, because let's discuss the issues. Let's not discuss, those kind of issues, because in the process, the message will be lost. And the message is these programs are for the interest of the nation. There is nothing sinister about it. As to if we need to improve our communication and engagement strategy, I agree with you. It is work in progress. We need to keep on improving.
There's many questions, Mr. DP, whether these questions are really for the interest of the people. We, as the media, have reported every day, Kenyans are deeply frustrated with the Social Health Authority. Many, in fact, say NHIF was working. When you come to issues like affordable housing, we were told there was public participation, despite public discontent. When it comes to livestock vaccination, the same thing. Is the government hiding behind the facade of public participation to pass unpopular programs, knowing very well that there's no legal binding framework on public participation? And so the government really isn't bound by Kenyans who say we don't want SHA.
We'll go back to what we said earlier. The government must continue listening to the people and getting input from the people. But the government also has a duty to carry out programs for the transformation of the country. Some of the programs that will transform Kenya may not be popular now, but they'll be popular sometime. Singapore, for example, which many people praise, one of the factors and anchors that took Singapore where it was among other anchors is the housing anchor. And today, if you look at the Human Development Index, Singapore is up there, and one of the variables is housing, because almost 99% of everybody has a decent home. So, and it was unpopular at the time when the Singaporean leader was bringing this program. It was very unpopular. In fact, it had a component of compulsory savings. But today, many years later, after this leader left the scene, the people of Singapore are very happy that this project propelled their country into the first world. So I will end with what I started with, that what is popular may not even be in the public interest. And sometimes what is in the public interest may not be in the national interest. And the work of government is not to look for popularity. Popularity is a function of elections, which we do every 5 years. And every politician has a way of transacting with electorate to look for popularity during election. In between here, it is to engage the people, listen to the people, which we are doing. In many instances, we may not be perfect because government is a human endeavor. Like any other, we are not 100%, but we are continuing to listen. And as the President said during the State of the Nation address, listening is a full-time occupation of every leader.
Thank you very
much. And
therefore,
these programs may have the kind of, the consensus is not yet there, but they will transform Kenya. And many years later, when many of us who are in this space are not even here, Kenyans will come in succeeding generations will be grateful for the housing program, the universal health program, the agricultural reform program, and all the other programs that this government is rolling out for the transformation of Kenya.
Thank you very much, Deputy President, Professor Abraham KITHURE Kindiki, for your time. And I think Kenyans tonight will be waiting to see what will happen next in terms of how you listen, how you communicate, and how you take action after you have made promises. Asante sana. Mimi nimekuwa wako Mashirima Kapombe kutoka runinga ya Citizen.
Joel Chacha kutoka runinga ya K24.
Michelle Ngele Odhiambo, NTV.
John Jacob Kuria, KBC.
Ashley Mazuri, KTN.
George Maringa, TV47.
Usiku mwema mtazamaji.
Chacha, finished your water.
This festive season, let the joy of togetherness fill your hearts and homes. Celebrate responsibly and make memories that last a lifetime. Choose activities that bring happiness and health. Avoid alcohol and drugs in this festive season. We're working together to ensure everyone's safety. Report illegal alcohol and drug activities in your area. This festive season, let's protect what matters most, our lives and those we love. Celebrate responsibly.
Imekuaje?
Inafika sometime inawasha hata kulala ni shida.
Sasa hii jafura mdomo inafika mahali inafura kabisa, sasa inateremka meno inakuwa nje yote.
It's hard.
By the way, mimi huwa najikaza tu kama mwanaume. Lakini sasa
can we for a while think of those who are suffering, think of those who need help, and come forward and contribute, just help others, because that's going to be a very special kind of thing. Because when you are helping people, you're able to enjoy.
Ulikuwa unataka nikupeleke wapi?
Mimi nataka kuenda Mombasa kama wanawake wengine nikajifundishe kuogelea.
Tulisema nimempika pipi yangu.
Mimi sikusema, nimekusomea mashtaka ambayo yameandikwa hapa.
Who told you she have a manufacturer in his head?
Alinipiga mheshimiwa, nini ilifanyika na unaona
I broken his nini? Kumbafu sauku.
Anakupigaga kila siku.
Kila siku ananipiga.
Na unavumilia tu.
Na mbona ana smile na mimi basi?
Mimi anashangaa wewe anaita mimi mtoto kidogo.
Utihita kuchukulia hatua kali ile haijaonekana.
Asante mama.
Child deserves the opportunity to thrive, and it's up to all of us to create a society where inclusion and acceptance is the norm.
We have seen that with a lot of support from the government and other institutions involved, we can be able to even make greater strides.
We want to be an exclusive publisher for digital learning content for learners with disabilities. And our focal point at the moment is learners who are deaf, learners with visual impairment.
We focus on individuals and organizations that focus on empowering children with disabilities through learning differently.
Imekuaje?
Inafika sometime inawasha hata kulala ni shida. Yeah.
Sasa haijafura hii mdomo. Inafika mahali inafura kabisa, sasa inateremka meno inakuwa nje yote.
It's hard.
By the way, mimi huwa najikaza tu kama mwanaume. Lakini sasa
You know, can we for a while think of those who are suffering, think of those who need help, and come forward and, you know, contribute, just help others, because that's going to be a very special kind of thing. Because when you are helping people, you're able to enjoy.
differently. Treat your eyes to the best panoramic views in the world. Get a glimpse of the best Mother Nature has to offer. Paddle away, swim and dive with friends and family in our amazing lakes and ocean. Explore the historic caves and wondrous gorges. Make and capture lifelong memories. Let loose and breathe in the fresh air. This holiday season, Shikisha Oils in Kenya Parks.
This festive season, let the joy of togetherness fill your hearts and homes. Celebrate responsibly and make memories that last a lifetime. Choose activities that bring happiness and health. Avoid alcohol and drugs in this festive season. We're working together to ensure everyone's safety. Report illegal alcohol and drug activities in your area. This festive season, let's protect what matters most, our lives and those we love. Celebrate responsibly.
Good evening, the 19th of December 2024, a day that, well, a day of fast, so I can say, a State of the Nation address by Deputy President Kindiki, the very first since he took up that particular position. It was a combined or a joint media production, and top of the questions that were raised by that particular panel was on matters security as well as the latest government policies, including affordable housing and the transition to Taifa Care. Well, just in case you missed that, you can have a recap on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke for further details, and also our YouTube channel. And also, once again, being the 19th, we have seen changes executed in the formation of the cabinet. Details are soon to follow, but first things first, the highlights.
Mutahi Kagwe, Lee Kinyanjui and William Kabogo bounced back into the cabinet in the latest shake-up in the executive.
The Inspector General of Police has formed a specialized missing persons unit domiciled at the DCI Homicide Unit to deal with cases of femicide.
A specialized unit is formed in the Directorate of Criminal Investigation to trace persons reported missing in the country. And northeastern leaders urge residents to take advantage of the nationwide livestock vaccination drive.
Good evening once again, if you're tuning in. I'm Regina Manyara, and this is Prime Edition on KBC Channel 1. My colleague on sign language is Brian Moraru. Now we start off with the latest changes made to the cabinet, where we have the entry of Mutahi Kagwe as Cabinet Secretary, Agriculture and Livestock Development. Mutahi Kagwe. There we have Lee Kinyanjui, who takes up the mantle at the investment, trade and industry docket there. William Kabogo is the new Cabinet Secretary, ICT and Digital Economy. Also, some of the changes there, we now have a immediate former Cabinet Secretary, Information Communication and Digital Economy, Margaret Ndongo, now has been, moved to hold the position of Ambassador of Kenya to Ghana, as well as Ababu Namwamba, who joins UNEP Nairobi. Also, other changes include Dorothy Angote now, who is proposed for the position of ambassador in Zimbabwe, as well as Andrew Karanja, who heads now to Brazil there at the High Commission there. Andrew Karanja is a former cabinet secretary there. And we also have now a major one there where we have Salim Vuria, who initially held the position of Cabinet Secretary, Trade and Investment, who moves now to Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports. We have Kipchumba Murkomen, who until this evening was holding the position as Cabinet Secretary in charge of Youth Affairs, Youth and Sports there. Is now the Cabinet Secretary, Interior and National Administration. Derito Mureithi is Chairman, KRA, proposed for the appointed to position of Chairman, Kenya Revenue Authority. We have Kembi Gitura, a seasoned politician there, getting in as the Chairman of KUTRH. While Anthony Mwaura, who was formerly at the Kenya Revenue Authority, takes up the position of Chairman at the Kenya Rural Roads Authority. Now, that's just but a sneak peek of what, or rather the latest, a detailed report is soon to follow. Just to do that recap again, is that former Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe and former Governors Lee Kinyanjui as well as William Kabogo are the latest entrants in President William Ruto's broad-based government. Also, the President nominated Mutahi Kagwe to the position of CS for Agriculture and Livestock, while Kabogo will be taking up Information Communication and the Digital Economy docket. Kinyanjui is now a CS for Investment, Trade and Industry, while Kipchumba Murkomen is now the country's Interior Cabinet Secretary. Details are going to be soon following as our reporter Giverson Minor works on that detailed report. Now, a specialized unit has been formed to help in tracing persons reported missing in the country. Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Interior Musalia Mudavadi says the missing persons unit will be domiciled at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. Mudavadi also said the DCI has completed investigations into 7,107 sexual and gender-based violence cases reported between September 2023 to date. Earlier on, Mudavadi launched the Peace Building Architecture Review Report, which cited negative ethnicity as the greatest driver of conflicts in the country.
The government has reaffirmed its commitment to ensuring the safety and security of all Kenyans as the year 2024 comes to an end, a year that so many people reported missing. On gender-based violence, Prime Cabinet Secretary, who is also the Acting Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Musalia Mudavadi, says among the 7,107 reported cases, 100 involve women who were murdered between August and November this year.
Nairobi County recorded the highest number of SGBV cases, while Samburu and Mandera counties had the lowest incidence.
The government is also boasting of a 62% decrease in cases of cattle rustling in the North Rift, owing to the Operation Maliza Uhalifu, with 250 suspects, including 14 politicians, arrested.
Following the resultant peace in the once volatile area, the government has completed rebuilding 11 primary schools, 5 others are under rehabilitation, while we project to rehabilitate 9 more for use during the first term of next year.
Unfortunately, 179 civilians and 4 security officers were killed in the attacks. Earlier on, Mudavadi launched the Peace Building Architecture Review report that highlights ethnicity as the major cause of conflicts in the country. The report recommends, among others, commitment to addressing long-standing and emerging conflicts drivers and reform the national peace-building institutions. Tilio Marco for Prime Edition.
7,107 sexual gender-based violence cases recorded since September of 2023 to date. Well, we're still talking about matters of gender-based violence. Is that police have launched a manhunt for a criminal who is allegedly linked to the rape and death and murder of a 62-year-old man in Ruiru, Kiambu County. The woman was attacked at dawn on Tuesday while walking along the Ruiru Bridge on her way from Matangi area to her place of work at a coffee firm within Ruiru town.
Police units led by Kiambu County Commander Michael Mushiri visited the scene after receiving a report from members of the public that an elderly woman was found lying on the roadside bleeding profusely before rushing her to Ruiru Prison Hospital and later transferred to Nairobi Women's Hospital, where she died while receiving treatment.
A 62-year-old was raped here some 2 days ago, and we are sad also to report that she's passed on this morning. We already picking up some very crucial information, very crucial leads. Of course, we cannot be able to talk about them at this moment, but in the fullness of time, we are going to progress this matter.
Mushiri says the victim was raped before the suspect assaulted her with a sharp object and left her bleeding out.
It's an abomination. Raping a 62-year-old grandmother, it never used to happen. So again, it's a call to the community. It's a call to religious leaders and the community at large that we need to reset and get back to our value systems so that things like this are not allowed to happen again.
Mushiri, who described the crime as horrendous, said officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations Homicide Unit established crucial lists that will help apprehend the suspect.
Femicide cases, gender-based violence, these are issues that the government is giving it a completely different perspective. At the Directorate of Investigation, DCI headquarters, we even have a section that is dedicated to these investigations.
Ruiru Sub-County Police Commander Alex Shikondi has appealed to the public to volunteer information that may lead to the arrest of the suspect. Kasichana Masha, Prime Edition.
Well, quite sad. Now to matters politics. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has broken his silence on speculations making rounds of a possible coalition with former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The self-declared opposition leader says Gachagua is welcome to join hands with the opposition leaders ahead of the 2027 election. His visit to Mount Kenya region came a day after Gachagua set foot in the Ukambani region.
Either in government or in opposition. Kwa hivyo wale tukianza Januari, tunasema wale ambao wanajiita waazimio, wale walienda kule mawaziri ni sawa, na wengine wakichaguliwa nasikia Ruto anataka kuchukua wengine, waende kibinafsi, lakini azimio itasimama. Hata kama azimio mnaona haina maana, tukianza Januari pia ni lazima tuamue tuwe na muungano mpya.
Kuna wale wamesikia naibu wa rais wa pili Gachagua akisema ya kwamba yeye ako tayari kuungana na Kalonzo, kuungana na Wamalwa. Munakubali Gachagua aungane na sisi?
Now, leaders from northeastern counties have urged residents to actively participate in the upcoming nationwide livestock vaccination drive set to commence January next year. Speaking during the annual Al-Huda Quran competition in Mandera County, Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Climate Change, as well as Forestry, Aden Duale told pastoralists the vaccination aims to combat prevalent diseases and improve productivity.
Speaking in Mandera County, Environment Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale defended the government's plan to carry out mass vaccination of livestock, saying the program was a transformative opportunity for pastoralists.
We could not access Middle East market. We could not access European markets as pastoralists because of FMD and PPR. Mr. President, we are behind you. Come January, we will be standing. Come to Mandera, we will launch. Come to Wajir, we will launch. Come to Garissa. Don't listen to the naysayers.
Duale maintained the vaccines manufactured by a reputable Kenyan company, Kenya Veterinary Vaccines Production Institute, are critical for protecting livestock and enhancing pastoral economies.
We agreed for the first time in the history of independent Kenya. President Jomo Kenyatta never did it. President Moi never did it. President Kibaki never did it, and President Uhuru never did it. President Ruto said we are going to carry out mass vaccination of all the animals in the Republic of Kenya.
Mandera Governor Mohamed Khalif affirmed the county's commitment to the vaccination campaign and pledged to lead the effort locally. The leaders dismissed those opposed to the vaccination program, accusing them of misinforming Kenyans.
We need to seek the advice. Hii maneno ya social media, wale ambao hata hawana ng'ombe ndio wanaongea mambo ya ng'ombe, mambo ya gamia. I think it's not right. Hii program tuko na wataalamu, we have experts from this region. We need to have a meeting and then engage our people. This propaganda, people like listening to lies. And everything you do as government or as a leader, there are people who are always ready to criticize without even finding whether what they are criticizing is true or false.
The initiative aims to vaccinate approximately 22 million cattle against foot and mouth disease and 50 million sheep and goats. Lisho Kawashira, Prime Edition.
Now to the big story of today, so to speak, is that former Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe and former governors Lee Kinyanjui, as well as William Kabogo, are the latest entrants in President William Ruto's broad-based government. The president nominated Kagwe as the new CS for Agriculture and Livestock, Kabogo to ICT and Digital Economy docket, while Kinyanjui comes in as CS Investment, Trade and Industry. Meanwhile, Kipchumba Murkomen will be the country's next Interior Cabinet Secretary. Giverson Minor now with the details.
Former Health Cabinet Secretary who served in Uhuru Kenyatta's administration, Mutahi Kagwe, former Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui, and former Kiambu Governor William Kabogo are the new faces in the cabinet following President William Ruto's reshuffle on Thursday. Mutahi Kagwe has been nominated to serve in the Agriculture and Livestock Development docket, Lee Kinyanjui in the Investment, Trade and Industry, while William Kabogo will serve in the ICT and the Digital Economy docket. The three nominees will, however, wait for approval by the National Assembly. Their nomination comes days after President Ruto met former President Uhuru Kenyatta at his Gatundu home in Kiambu County. In the cabinet changes, Kipchumba Murkomen will serve as the new Cabinet Secretary of Interior. Salim Vuria has been moved to the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports. Margaret Ndongo and Andrew Karanja have been dropped as Cabinet Secretaries and nominated to serve as Kenya High Commissioners to Ghana and Brazil respectively. Former CS of Sports, Babu Namwamba, has been nominated as Kenya's permanent representative to the United Nations Environment Programme. Former Laikipia Governor Nderitu Muriithi of Jubilee Party has been appointed as the chairperson of Kenya Revenue Authority to replace Anthony Mwaura, who will now chair the Kenya Rural Roads Authority. Veteran politician Kembi Gitora is the new chairperson of Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital. Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
Well, we take a fast breather. Just remember, further details are available on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke. Do not go away. We have so much in store for you on Prime Edition.
Listen up. Quality is on a mission. It makes our gums happy and our teeth strong. See? We're moving forward and making changes.
It's kind of a big thing.
Colgate Herbal uses traditional nature's herbs and combines it with Colgate science for healthy gums and strong teeth.
And we'll leave no smile behind.
Christmas ni sahi ishafika na ni kubwa kubwa. Kweli? Hii Kristi ni bomba na Blue Santa kupitia star 570 hash option 1. Rudia. Star 570 hash option 1. Iko PlayStation 5 na 55-inch TV na iko 500,000 Kenyan shillings.
Nambuzi moja?
Nambuzi. 1 million Kenyan shillings na Samsung S24 Ultra.
Nambuzi moja?
Iko 2 million Kenyan shillings na iPhone 16 Pro Max.
Nambuzi mbili.
Blue Santa amekuja na zawadi kibao. Nani kubwa kubwa? Hapa kuna ndogo ndogo. Hapa Christmas ni bomba.
Kenya Coast National Polytechnic is one of the leading TVET institutions in Kenya. Our hands-on training has ensured that our graduates acquire the necessary skills and competencies as required by the industry, leading to their absorption in the job market. We are inviting applications for various diploma, certificate and artisan courses for our January 2025 intake. We offer courses in maritime studies, engineering, health sciences, business and media studies, hospitality and tourism, ICT, driving courses and recognition of prior learning programs among other courses. We accept KUCCPS and SSP students and also accept transfer students. For more information, call the number on the screen or visit